Layla Shaver, your favorite compliance nerd, and I wanted to talk to you today about something that is really, really important, and that's training. Yep, some of you have probably already turned off the audio, but you shouldn't, because training is incredibly important. So you know that your compliance people and your CCO in particular know what they're doing, know how to implement your compliance program, and most importantly, are going to be able to communicate with you as the business owner. So today I'm talking to you about training for your CCOs. Now remember, compliance is dynamic. It's not a static thing, right? Regulations are always changing. There's always new guidance, FAQs, and let's be real. The SEC is not sitting on its butt and doing this for itself. It's creating all of this information and content for you guys, the RIAs, to read it, absorb, and implement in your businesses. So if they're taking the time to put it together for you, they're expecting you're using that content to train your team. So let's talk about what training should include, right? Especially for your CCO. So remember, there is a technical component and a practical application. Right? So there's rules and regulations, and then what the hell do I do with that? How do I apply it to the firm? So you've got to be able to help your CCO think through that very important piece. So first you need to make sure your CCO is very comfortable and very familiar with the regulatory framework. What are all the rules and regulations that govern your business, right? So obviously there's the Investment Advisors Act, but what else? Is it Department of Labor's fiduciary rule? Is it FinCEN's rules? What other organizations impact your firm? Privacy law rules at the state or federal level? What other regulations impact your business, and are they keeping up with it? Do they have the resources to access that regulation and get ongoing updates about changes in those rules and regs, or even just updates on guidance or FAQs that are issued based on sweeps or exams that are being conducted? Second, you want a CCO that's good with implementation, right? You need someone who can build out policies and procedures. Not hire a compliance consultant, right? Because you can do that on your own. You don't need to pay a CCO to do that for you. But someone who can actually build out policies and procedures. They have to be able to draft the language. They have to be able to identify what the rule is, what the firm's policy should be, and the practical process. Your compliance policies and procedures should be something your entire team can refer to and say, hey, I just committed a trade error. What am I supposed to do? And they should be able to open that compliance manual and know exactly what to do. And it should be easy to understand. So many times I see compliance manuals and they're convoluted, they're templated. There's no real process involved. So you want to make sure when you're talking to and training your CCO that they know how to draft policies and procedures. And a good test, ask them to draft one for you as part of their onboarding process. Give them a topic, give them what the firm's policy is, and have them draft a policy and procedure for you to review. So another area of training that your CCOs are going to need are testing. That's right. So we've got the rules and regs. I know I've got this manual I've put together that says here's the policy, here's the rule, and here's how to do this process. Now we've got to test that the program actually works. Does your CCO know how to do best execution review? Do they know why best execution review is required? Do they know all the things, all the components, all the different documents or information they have to review to analyze whether your firm's getting best execution? Do they know how to do email review or advertising review? Or are they going to need a crutch, as in someone else to help them with things they've never done before? You really want to make sure that they are aware of the kind of testing that needs to be done, but how to actually do the testing. Have they ever logged into IRD? Have they ever filed a U4 or a U5? Right? Do they know the differences between all the different filing types? If they don't, then you definitely want to spend the time to make sure they understand all the different types of testing, how to actually do the testing. And remember, testing is not just about email archiving and supervision, for example. It's testing your email technology, right? If I write an email and it says, I guarantee you 25% returns and don't file a complaint against me, I'm not committing fraud, your email archiving solution should flag that email. So it's even testing the technology you use. Does your CCO realize that? Do they know that? So So training your CCO is going to involve making sure they understand not only the testing that has to go in place to show that you're archiving and supervising, but even making sure the systems and processes you're using are adequate as well. I highlight the word management, right? Because a lot of people are not very good with management, whether it's management of time, management of people, management of work. Management is important, and a compliance officer, especially a CCO, has to manage all of those things. Generally, a CCO has a team they're working with the advisors, they have to manage their time, they have to manage their work, and they have to manage other people. And that's going to help promote this environment, this culture of compliance. It's important to mitigate risk. You have to balance making your advisors happy and promoting business with what regulation requires, what you can and cannot do as a firm, and where that gray area is. Is your CCO comfortable with the gray? Are they able to triage and problem solve? Are they able to identify areas of high risk to low risk? Are they able to tackle those areas of high risk and remediate them? Risk management is incredibly important. Every business has risk, but to the extent you can mitigate and reduce it, you are doing the business a favor. So ensuring that there's training with your CCO on risk management and expectations is incredibly important. Final area of training for CCOs: enforcement and investigations. That's right. Do you have a CCO that's been through an exam? Do you have a CCO that has experience working with enforcement? Do they understand how to speak with the SEC and its representatives? Are they someone who's going to sit there and verbal diarrhea their way through the questions? Or do they understand how to appropriately and professionally answer questions from the SEC? Remember, you want them to answer just the question, but you also want a CCO that'll push back when necessary. Some of this is a game. It's a chess game, not a checkers game. So sometimes the SEC will push a little beyond what they're allowed to ask just to see what you'll say. And if you turn it over, they sure as hell are going to look at it. So you want to make sure your CCO has experience with enforcement and exams. They understand how to protect the business and communicating with regulators, but also ensuring that they're not coming off as an ass or making the firm look like they're not being cooperative. There is a fine balance. And if your CCO doesn't understand how to do that, then you have to make sure you're training them on it. Listen, I know there's a lot we've talked about when it comes to CCO training, and there's a lot that the CCO has to be able to do and do well. That's why it's a chief compliance officer. It's an executive level position because it comes with a lot of responsibility. And there's a lot that you have to make sure as the firm owner that your CCO knows and understands. And if they don't, you have to be able to provide the training. So are you? Do you have the time to train them? Even if you train them, do you have the time to supervise them? Make sure they're following through and doing what they're supposed to do? You may not even have time to have lunch, let alone train a CCO that you're paying a healthy salary to. So if you don't have time for training, you're not interested in having to teach your CCO all these areas that they have to be able to know as a CCO, then just give us a call, 770-462-2118. We can be your CCO. Or we have a training program just for your CCO that you can enroll them in and save your time. So give us a call. That number again is 770-462-2118.